Well, this is the I don't know what I'm talking about podcast, and today I'm gonna go over the French Open men's final a little late because it happened Sunday. It's Tuesday, and then I'm gonna go over the Knicks Spurs Knicks game 3, which the Spurs pulled out, and my 4 topics are gonna be the French Open final. Serena WIlliams making a return, the French Open chaos, and there could be more chaos coming at Wimbledon. And as far as like a bunch of lower seeds and unseeded players beating higher seeded players, and then Spurs Knicks Game 3 will be the last one. Let's go ahead and get into the French Open final. Zverev pulled it out in a 5-setter. I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, he had 2 matches that went to 4 sets. He only lost 2 sets through the whole French Open until Kaboli, where he lost 2 sets there. I think Kaboli made it a really good match. It looked like Zverev, I think it's how you pronounce it, Zverev, was going to run over him early on in the match. That first set was 6-1, but Kaboli was very energetic. He got the crowd involved, and he had some great winners that he hits. A lot of his returns were really good to me, off of Zverev's serves, and because Zverev has a really great serve. His service games, which is true for everybody, but his service games are probably a lot better than his return games, compared to most people. Like, there's a bigger gap between his service games and return games than most people, because his service is so good, and honestly, because I think he stands too far back on his returns. But Kaboli was hitting a lot of his serves, a lot of his shots, a lot of Zverev's shots that were very powerful and placed well and could have been winners. Kaboli returned them back, not soft a lot of the times. He shot them right back, and Kaboli moves around the court really well. I think he used that to his advantage throughout this game, because he moves around the court better than Zverev, and Zverev moves around the court really well. Zverev had more power. Kaboli has power, but it's not consistent to me. I think it got better throughout the game, like on some of those returns. And with his serve, I know they were talking about his kick serve, and the only thing I could tell maybe that was his kick serve was he leaned back more, and I guess he does a kick with his leg. But there definitely was times where his serve was more powerful than others, his first serve, and I think if that's his kick serve, he should utilize that more often, because he needs the power to play with the big dogs like Zverev. And I think Kaboli's drop shot, you could tell it was something that was part of his game, like a Mensik, like a Bublik, like an Alcaraz, but it wasn't on early in the game. He had some misses, some unforced errors with that drop shot, and then sometimes drop shots that just set up an easy shot for Zverev, whether they didn't have enough spin on it, or just were too obvious. He didn't sell the fact that he could hit it somewhere else enough before he hit his drop shot. So I think that hurt him a little bit. Zverev had a problem with double faults. He had 9, and honestly, it felt like more than that. To Kaboli's only 3. I know he has a big serve, and sometimes when you have a big serve, you're taking more risk, and you're going to have more double faults, but that really hurt him more. It hurt him a lot in this game. He only got broke 3 times. had the opportunity to be broke 8 times, and he broke 9 out of 21. But I think that he could have got broke more. He was in danger of being broke a lot of times to me, and so he's got to be a lot cleaner with his serve. Second and fourth set were huge for Kaboli. He got that one break in the second set, ended up winning 6-4, and then the fourth set was 7-6, and he ended up winning the tiebreaker. I want to say he was down in that tiebreaker at some points. He's a fighter. With the way that first set went, a lot of people laid down, and I think watching the Mensik, even though Mensik got a set on him, he fought back some. But that game was more of a lull. You kind of knew how that game was going. Kaboli, and I watched this game on recording, so I knew the outcome, but it still felt like Kaboli could win a lot of times during that match. And it would have felt even more like that if I watched it live. And I watched the Mensik game on a recording too, so I knew the outcome of that. But even though I knew the outcome, it still felt like a lull. Like, it didn't really feel like Mensik had a huge chance to win. But Kaboli was moving around. Kaboli was hitting winners. Zverev was getting frustrated, especially that second set. After he lost that break point. And Zverev kept his cool for most of the game, but Kaboli got in his head that second set. His placement was very good a lot of the times. He was hitting the line. And like I said, he would have bursts of power on it. His serve got more powerful, and it stayed pretty consistently powerful as the game went on. But I think during the volleys, he's gotta try to hit a few more winners, or at least fire it back at him. Just try to pick up the speed, make it harder for Zverev to hit it. He's got to convert on his drop shot more, but second and fourth sets were big for Kaboli. First and fifth were dominant for Zverev, 6-1 and 6-1 in the first set. In the fifth set, Kaboli kind of, in both of those sets, he wasn't as energetic. He wasn't fighting as hard, it didn't seem like. And, a lot of that's, you're going to get down when you're losing, but you gotta find a way to pick it back up and keep it back up, eventually. And, Kaboli got a game out of both of them, but Zverev pretty much ruled those sets with his power and his placement and his shot making. I still think both of these players, and this is the first time I really watched a Kaboli game. I watched a little bit of him against maybe Berrettini, somebody. I watched part of a game of Kaboli. But, it probably wasn't Berrettini, but I watched part of a Kaboli game, but both stand too far back on their returns to me, and it takes them way too long to, for one, get up to the line, and for two, just stop hitting shots where they're just trying to get it over the net, because when you stand that far back, like I've tried to say before, you're on the defense so much. You're just trying to get it over the net from how far back you are. And then that gives Kaboli, if Zverev is the one standing far back, a rhythm to just start hitting winners. And then Zverev is trying to react to those winners, or shots that are like winners, hard shots with great placement. You're just setting the opponent to hit great shots, and you're spending a lot of time to recover and get in a place where you could start hitting winners yourself. And, they both stood far back a long time, and I understand Kaboli more than Zverev, but to me, Kaboli can handle Zverev's serve too. Kaboli would mix it up, as McEnroe would point out, and he would stand up towards the line, and sometimes off of serves from Zverev. And to me, he played those points better than when he stood so far back. So, I don't know. If I was good at tennis and I was some of these guys, if I was standing, if I was serving and the person I was going against was so far back, as soon as he returns, I would go up to the net, because I think you could take advantage of a lot of shots, these weak shots they're hitting over. You can go to the net and go ahead and hit short shots, or you could slam them. And I watched, I think, the highlights, because I haven't watched a ton of old tennis. Really only gotten to watch tennis like 4 years ago, 2022 U.S. Open, and but one day on YouTube I watched an old game. I don't know if it was McEnroe versus Connors or McEnroe versus Sampras or McEnroe versus Borg. It was McEnroe versus somebody, maybe Agassi. But it was like every single point they played, they hit their shot, they hit their serve, and then they're right up at the net. Or they return it once and then they're right up at the net. And I don't think that's the smart way to play, although it worked for those tennis greats. But if someone's standing so far back against you, almost to the wall, I think you could play it that way then. Go ahead and serve and then go ahead right up to the net and hit a winner. Because if they're going to play like that, take advantage of it. But I don't know. John McEnroe was commentating that game, and then I saw him at the New York Knicks game in Game 3. I thought that was impressive that he made it. He was commentating the French Open, and then he made it all the way to New York in a day, and I can't even get a French Open commentary or podcast out. It takes me 2 days. Zverev's grandma, I thought she was very supportive, seemed like a very sweet lady. I heard how the commentators were saying, like, I think every single match, or pretty close to every single match, Zverev plays. I want to say she's there for the warm up, and then she walks all the way back to the hotel, and she won't watch the game. She gets so nervous. But she made it out for her son's first major win, and that, like a lot of players, you see the pouring out of emotion when he wins his first major. And a lot of people have been calling him the best player never to win a major, and he finally got it done. I hate to say it, I hate to be this way, but if he keeps staying that far back on returns, it's going to be hard for him to win a lot of majors. He's just putting himself in a hole so fast, and it's so hard. He's got to be so perfect almost on his service games. He only got broke 3 times. I mean, on his on his service games, because he's not going to win that many games where he's returning against great players. So I don't know. The players need to get that out of their head. That unless you're surviving, because this person's serve is just so powerful for you and you can't hit it, you don't need to be way bad there, to me. I don't know a lot about tennis, but I think that could hurt him in the future. So the French Open was, I'm going to talk about the French Open chaos now and how there could be more chaos at Wimbledon. There's a lot of chaos during this French Open. I think they said it was the first semifinals, I want to say of the French Open, but maybe of any major, where none of the semifinalists on the women's or the men's side have ever won a major. And so there was a lot of chaos to get to that point, obviously. Sabalenka losing in the quarterfinals. The Schneider losing 0-6 that last set. Rybakina lost the second round. Paolini lost the second round. She was a 13 seed. Makova lost the third round to an unseeded player. There's a lot of chaos. Anna Samova, she was the fourth round? No, she didn't make it to the fourth round. Anisimova lost the third round in 3 sets. Iga lost. When did Iga lose? Iga lost to Kostyuk, I think. She was the second round? Iga, who's great at the French Open. I thought I should have picked her. No, Iga lost the. That's the fourth round, I think. Coco lost the third round to a 28 seed. So there's a lot of chaos on the women's side. You look at the men's. And obviously, look at the semifinals: unseeded 10 seed, 26 seed, 2 seed. So you had Center going down because of the heat. Look at the quarterfinals. You got unseeded, 4 seed, 10 seed, 26 seed, 28 seed, 27 seed, 2 seed. So there was only 2 players in the top 10, and one of them was seeded 10. The fourth round, or the quarterfinals, I'm sorry. No, I just looked at the quarterfinals. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players that were unseeded in the fourth round out of 16. The 4 seed lost to the 10 seed in the quarterfinals. Djokovic lost in the third round to the 28 seed. Tiafoe played a bunch of tough matches, ended up getting beaten by an unseeded player in the fourth round. Shelton lost the second round to an unseeded player. Yep, to an unseeded player. Mensik took down Damanur. Well, Mensik might be better than Damanur, honestly. So there was a lot of chaos at the French Open, and then I think it could happen in Wimbledon at Wimbledon this year. You look at Wimbledon last year. Sabalenka had that match with Siegman in the quarterfinals, where Siegman really should have beaten her. Then she lost to the 13th seed Anisimova. Now we know how good Anisimova is now, but didn't know that exactly back then. Bencic made the semifinals when she was unseeded. I think Coco got out early at Wimbledon. Paolini got out the second round. Looking for Coco. Coco got out the first round last year. 6-7, 1-6. Rybakina got out the third round. Pagula got upset the first round. That's a 3 seed. 27 seed lost the first round. 15 seed Makova lost the first round. 25 seed lost the first round. 5 seed Zhang lost the first round. 20 seed Ostapenko lost the first round. So I think Keys, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, Keys lost to Siegman. Siegman made a big run, and I'm high on Siegman. Badosa lost the first round. And then looking at the men's 2025. So there was chaos in Wimbledon last year, not as much as this year, or not as much as the French Open this year. But I think there could be chaos next year in Wimbledon. Norrie making it all the way to the quarterfinals. He took down. He did have someone to get there. I thought he did. Tiafoe, he took down Tiafoe. Kaganov making it as 17, Kaboli making his 22nd seed. Norrie was the only unseeded player in the semifinals. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the fourth round out of 16 that were unseeded. Capoli took down Mensick. That's not that big of a deal now. Let's see. Tommy Paul got taken down as a 13 seed in the second round of Wimbledon last year. Draper got taken down the second round of Wimbledon last year. 21 seed lost the second round to an unseeded player. '23 seed lost the second round to an unseeded player. Auger Aliassime lost the second round to an unseeded player. He was seeded 25th now, so he really shot up the rankings. I didn't realize how fast they shoot up the rankings and the seedings until recently. Musetti, 7 seed, lost the first round last year. So there was some chaos. Wimbledon last year seems like more on the women's side. But Zverev lost the first round to Renner Ganesh, who's really good. But anyways, I think there could be a lot of chaos at Wimbledon, this upcoming Wimbledon. Because I think the similar thing about the clay courts at the French Open this year in Wimbledon is a lot of the power is nulled from these top powerful players. And it was like that this year at the French Open because it was so hot. I remember someone was telling me that Venus Williams said because she was on being an out giving. She was an analyst. Good night. I couldn't think of that word. She was an analyst at this French Open a little bit. And someone was telling me that she said that when it gets hot at the French Open, the ball slows down. Like it bounces off the ground slower. It doesn't have as much bounce. And when it's cold, it bounces more. And I don't know if that's because the ground freezes a little bit when it's cold and it makes it harder, and it melts a little bit when it's warmer, or it gets drier when it's warmer. I don't know. But the ball slows down at Wimbledon because it's grass. It's not going to hit off the floor like a hard court or even clay. So when you have, I would think even clay, but when you have that, it kind of nulls the power of a Anisimova, of a Sabalenka, of a Alcaraz, of a Sinner, of a Medvedev, of a Djokovic, of an Iga to some extent. And it's going to become a lot more about placement and, hitting the ball where your opponent's not. And I think that takes away a lot of the power from the elites, and it can cause a lot of chaos. And probably the same things are going to happen as far as, Sinner and Alcaraz. Well, Alcaraz is going to play, but, my bet would be on Sinner versus the field still to win it all. He's just so proven. And Sabalenka's probably going to be in that semifinal because she always gets around there. But within the tournament, I think there could be a ton of chaos, and it'll become more about placement and hitting it where your opponent's not than, being one of the great players and having a ton of power. So it's going to be tougher for these, a lot of these great players. And some of the great players are more geared for these type of courts. Like, Iga, how great she is at the clay court. And so she's not probably at as much as a disadvantage. But you look at Mendoza, you look at Sabalenka, you look at Anisimova. Not that they can't do, and they won't do great. I'm sure they'll do great in these tournaments, to some extent at least. But I think those women are more geared for the hard courts. So I would look for a lot of chaos upcoming at Wimbledon. Also, the clay and the grass courts, I would think, have less grip than the hard court. So maybe people who aren't as good, but their footwork is really good. And to me, Iga has the best footwork on the court, but even some lower level players that have less less talent, but their footwork's great, they might have more of a chance to be successful at the upcoming Wimbledon. I think Kwalinska, Wimbledon, I think they'd say she'd have to get in as a wild card. I don't know if she'd have to go through the qualifying or whatever, because I think they said that her seeding's not going to come into effect until the U.S. Open as far as majors. But yeah, she could go on a run again at Wimbledon. I think that'd be the perfect tournament for her because a lot of it's about placement. She's really good at placement. She's really good at hitting it where the opponent's not. She does a lot of drop shots to the back of the line, stuff like that. I think that could be a great place for Kwalinska to make another run, as opposed to, not that she can't do good on hard courts, but I think it'd be better than her chances at Wimbledon would be better than her chances at the Australian Open or the U.S. Open. The Serena WIlliams, this is my third topic. Serena WIlliams making a return. And it seems she's going to be making a return during the grass season, and most people would say she's probably going to be in Wimbledon. And I don't know if that's the best place for her to make a return. Now, I think I just looked up. Wimbledon's tied for her most majors. She's had 7 at Wimbledon and 7 somewhere else. So she's obviously won there. 7 at the Australian, 7 at Wimbledon, 6 at the U.S. Open, 3 at the French Open. So she's obviously won there. She's done fine. But I just think she's a power hitter. And I don't know, it might be best to return on a hard court. Even, at her age, I still think she would probably be a power hitter. In 2022, she was still, when she came back for that U.S. Open with little warm-up or no warm-up, I can't remember. But she still was one of the more powerful players on the tour to me, if not the most powerful. And, I don't know if she shouldn't return during the hard court season, but I I also wonder because it's pretty well known she's lost weight, which I mean she can do what she wants to do, but I wonder if that'll hurt her power and strength because that was a lot of the thing about her. She was so strong, she was so powerful. It was hard for women to um be able to handle it. Um, and I wonder how much strength, how much power she's lost by losing that weight. Because it was good weight, it was muscle. It wasn't fat, and I don't know if she's going to be a less powerful player. But I would say she would. To me, I would estimate she'd be around the player she was in 2022. And if she gets a few tournaments under her belt, if she really wants to keep playing for a little while longer, I think she could get back to the point where she can win majors. That's my opinion. I don't know. She's 44, so she doesn't have much time. But maybe if she plays for like 1 to 3 more years, I can't see her going much longer than that. She might could get back to the point where she could still be winning majors. I wouldn't look for that in the upcoming Wimbledon. Maybe win a few matches, but we'll see. I remember in that 2022 U.S. Open, because that's really when I started getting into tennis as far as watching it. It's like they thought she was going to lose every match, and she won like 2 or 3 matches in that tournament before she ended up getting knocked out. They had like basically a video of her, it was basically like her farewell tour, and they had a video for like every match because they thought she was going to lose, and she just kept winning. So I think she could win a few matches at Wimbledon, but and she could get into a rhythm where she could get into a rhythm where she could start winning majors again. To me. All right, Spurs Knicks Game 3. I know the Spurs won, but to me they didn't play with the same defensive level of intensity. Castle wasn't as great of a defender as he was in Game 2. Was still a great defender, but same with Harper. All of them. I don't think all of them pretty much put as much ball pressure as they did in Game 2, but they came out with a win. And I also think their offense wasn't ran as well. They do what they always do. They move the ball around early in the game. Victor will swing the ball around. But as the game went on, to me, it was more one-on-one ball than last game. And it worked. But I think Castle played a lot of one-on-one ball. Wemby from the perimeter. Harper. There's a lot of plays where it came down with one player, high pick and roll, and that was basically the whole possession. I think they could get more movement. But like I said, they still got the win. And I think when they moved the ball around early, the ball got to Wemby a lot, and Wemby had a lot of early points. And I think that is how they need to play offense. When you're moving the ball, you're going to get the ball to your best players because eventually you're going to get in a position where you can get the ball to your best player. And they were getting the ball to Wemby down low a lot. He was getting a lot of easy dunks. He was in a position to make good moves down low. I think that's how they need to play. And I think they were looking for Wemby more. They were looking for Wemby to. They were throwing him passes that you wouldn't pass most people because he can catch them. And I think they need to do that more. I know Wemby's rookie year, a lot of people were saying, no one will pass Wemby the ball. They're hating on him. Only Vassell is the one that passes him the ball. I don't even think they're hating on him or anything like that. And people don't say that really now, but they're not saying, or I don't think it's players hating on him. I think it's sometimes when you have a player that can catch basketballs that no one else can catch, you don't think he can catch some things that you should throw him. And I think they did a better job last game of just throwing the ball way up to him and letting him go get it. And Yeah, I think they should do that more often because you can throw it up to him a lot, way more often than they do. And if he's doubled and he really can't finish, which a lot of times he's so tall he can, he'll kick it out and make a good pass. So I think they did a better job of getting him the ball, realizing they can get him the ball even when he's heavily covered. Uh, um, let's see. I mean, like I said, I think the Spurs played better last game. Wemby and Castle had better individual games. They both shot well from the field. Both had over 20 points. Victor had 32, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals. Castle had 23, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He was really attacking the basket well and being efficient. They had better overall games, even though I think defensively, at least Castle didn't have as good of a game. But I think overall the team didn't play as well, but they got the win. A tough environment on the road. So, it doesn't really matter. In a sense. You still want to play well, but Devin Vassell, he's really impressed me the more I watch him. I think I underrated how great of a shooter he is. And he's always bringing energy on the defensive end and just throughout the game. He's just playing with a lot of energy and it's helping. Shippenny always plays defense and he's always a threat from the outside. Hit was 3 for 7 from 3 today. When he drives, I think he's a solid driver. I don't think he drives enough. And De'Aaron Fox had another game where he's not efficient. I don't think it really matters. Brunson's not efficient most games. And De'Aaron Fox gets to the basket, gets good looks from the mid-range, creates good shots for other people, had 8 assists. And I think he's a really good player. Like I say a lot, I think his strength and his power is underrated. A lot of people talk about his speed, but I think he's put on a lot of weight since he's been in the NBA, good weight. And he's a really good player. 0 for 5 from 3, but you got to take them. You got to take open threes. If that's the shot your offense generates, I heard a commentator say that one time, that if your offense generates an open 3-point shot for a player that'll shoot threes, basically is what he said, you got to take those shots. So he's got to take them. You just got to make them. Carter Bryant, when he came in the game, it was interesting. I think, he hit a good shot, a 3, and he had a good block, but he also played a little out of control. He had 2 rebounding fouls against Karl-Anthony Towns where he just pushed him down. And then he had one play where Anunoby got a 3 when he should have stayed and closed out on him, but he and Wembanyama both went to another player. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Hart. But, yeah, he's just got to play a little smarter, a little more under control, but he plays hard on defense. And he's a solid player. He's a lot better player than I thought he would be, honestly, coming out of college, and a lot different player. In college he was like this humongous power forward. To me, it looks like he's lost weight or size. He's not, super bulked up like a bodybuilder almost he was in college, at least for the college level. And now he's slimmed down. He's a guard. He can move around better. He can defend better. And, shout out to the Spurs for having that vision of who he could be as a player, and shout out for him for having that vision as well and going through with it and putting in the work. And he's carved out a rotation role in the NBA. I think Dylan Harper played a lot better than the stats would say. He went 5 for 18 from the field, but he still had 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 13 points. He's really aggressive, was getting to the basket, hit a lot of timely buckets when the game was close towards the end. And, he was struggling from the 3-point line as well, 1 for 8, but he's got to take them. Those are the shots the offense generates. He's got to take those threes, and he's just got to knock them down. So I thought he played really well. I thought Keldon Johnson played good. And I was focusing on him a lot because I really like him as a player. And I've been talking about him a lot on the podcast. And, I think he's just out of rhythm. His coach has been playing him less. He had 17 minutes last game. And honestly, I hate to put it this way because it sounds bad when you're saying a player that, and not that he played bad last night, especially in the stat sheet, he played better than what it looked like on the floor. But for his standards, I don't think he played good. And well, he played good, but he could play a lot better. And I hate to say it this way, but he probably needs more minutes to get in more of a rhythm. I think when you got someone that good, just let them play their way out of it. Because the Knicks really can't stop him, in a sense. He gets to the basket just about every single time he gets the ball. And, he gets a good look, or he gets a good look for somebody else. And, I don't know, when you have someone that's that dominant, that physical in the post or getting to the basket, I think he needs to be in more. And I think he's aggressive when he gets the ball a lot of the time. Sometimes he's not. Sometimes he doesn't do anything and just passes the ball to someone else. But, I think he's out of rhythm, and I think he's wanting to be more of a role player now that just passes the ball around. And whenever he drives, it's like he gets all the way to the basket. And sometimes when you're that good at driving and you're getting all the way to the basket, and you're kind of a little bit, you don't want to shoot because you're out of rhythm and you just want to give the ball up. Sometimes you might not even drive because if you drive, you're so good at driving that you're going to get all the way to the basket and you're going to get a look. So maybe that's going on a little bit. I also think he's less aggressive off the ball. Like there's a lot of times where someone's in the paint and he could be open if he backs out to the 3-point line, but he's kind of like moving in a little and not, creating an opening for a shot from 3. And some of that could be he wants to go for the rebound. Some of that could be he's avoiding getting in to look for an open 3 or to attack a closeout and get downhill. He's also, he used to post up a lot. I don't see him post up as much. He just kind of backs out to the 3-point line when he has the opportunity to post up. I think he needs to be more aggressive off the ball, look for more shots, to me. And he missed some box outs as well. He needs to do a better job at that. But he's a great player. And I think he needs to look for his shot and keep being aggressive because, he went 3 for 5 from the field still when he's out of rhythm. He went 1 for 4 for the free throw line. That's part of the way you could kind of tell he's out of rhythm, but had 2 turnovers. One of them I remember was a bad one. He got down. It was like semi-transition. Gets down to the paint, gets doubled, and he made a bad pass out of it. But he still had a plus 14 plus minus, still shot 60% for the field, had 7 points in 17 minutes. He's a dominant player, and I think he needs to look for his shot. And he could be a game changer if he is playing like the 6th man of the year. I thought Luke Cornett played really well. I thought he played hard. I thought he played physical, had 5 rebounds in 9 minutes. And I think people just need to give him more of a break. I really don't think the backup center is really a need for the Spurs. It's more the power forward, where Julian Champagnie just isn't a power forward. Have a power forward and a backup power forward, honestly. And, I think I think people are, every single time they're like, oh, every time Wemby comes out, the Knicks or whoever plays the Spurs just attacks. And it's like, yeah, that's true. You should point that out. But at the same time, it's like they make it such an indictment on Luke Cornett to me sometimes. Like, he's not a good backup center. When I think he's just not Wemby. Even if you have a better rim protector there, Mitchell Robinson, Rudy Gobert, Jared Allen, they're not going to give the same kind of rim protection that Wemby. Wemby's probably the best rim protector ever at 7'5" and his athleticism. The way he contests shots, it makes it so hard for people to shoot, and you're just not gonna get that from Cornet. I think Cornet does a good job of being physical. He's really not a rim protector, but he's physical. He rebounds. He plays hard. I think he does a really good job. Um, they say he's a great teammate. I heard the quote last night of how he said he wanted to be a third of the player that Tim Duncan was, and Richard Jefferson said those are high aspirations, and that's true. So, and I still don't know if he's a third of the player Tim Duncan was, but seems like a good teammate, good player. The Spurs need to do a better job on Josh Hart. They're leaving him open for threes, and Cleveland did that last series, and I don't think it's a good idea. Yeah, he shoots a low percentage from three, but part of the reason he shoots a low percentage from three is because he's not a great, off the dribble, or not even off the dribble, but hitting threes contested. Yeah, but if you leave him wide open, he's going to hit him. So it's not like, oh, this guy's a bad 3-point this guy has a bad 3-point percentage. Let's leave him open to let him shoot. Well, his percentage is going to go way up when you leave him wide open because he hits those open shots when people are leaving him open. So I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that helped Cleveland. They got swept. And Josh Hart is out-rebounding everybody. Maybe not exactly like in the stat column. He had 9 rebounds last night. He had tied for the most rebounds, him and Dylan Harper. But even when he's not getting rebounds, he's flying in and causing chaos and tipping the ball out, and someone else is going to get it. He is working so much harder than everybody on the boards, and he's doing a great job with that. And Spurs got to box him out. They missed a lot of box. I said Keldon Johnson earlier, and he might have been the worst, but he's not the only one missing box outs. Spurs got to box out more. So yeah. And then Harrison Barnes didn't get any minutes last night. I know the Spurs won. I think that's a mistake to play Carter Bryant over him, even though Carter Bryant played good overall, a little wild, but he played good. I think Harrison Barnes is a more skilled player, adds an offensive element, and you don't need that extra physicality with Bryant, even though you probably do. But since you got Wemby as a rim protector, I think that you could have Barnes out there, who is a more skilled, better player. To get into the Knicks, how the Knicks played, OG Anunoby has been very impressive these playoffs. To me, he's gotten better at getting to the basket. He's really good when he drives by Wemby at being physical, or drives by anybody, but especially Wemby at being physical, being strong, finishing strong. He likes the 2-hand dunk. He likes using his body to shield off the defender. He's a great shooter. I think that's been going on for a few years. He can hit some tough contested threes, some tough contested shots. Went 9 for 13 from the field last night. He's really strong, and he tries to be physical with Wemby, and he is to some extent. At the same time, I don't think he should be out there at center. And I don't know the answer. I know you can't play Mitchell Robinson a lot of minutes. But I just don't think OG Anunoby is a center. They gotta find a different answer for that. And I don't know if you gotta bring somebody off the bench. I'll look at the Knicks roster real quick. I don't know if you gotta bring somebody off the bench that really doesn't get a lot of minutes. I don't know if Huck Porty. That's all I really see. I don't know if he needs to be out there. And I know that's, you really don't want to do that in a playoff series, put such a young player, but I don't think the Anunoby at center thing works. And Bridges, didn't have his best game, but it wasn't. I mean, he wasn't efficient for the field. He was 1 for 5, but it wasn't as much that. It's just he wasn't aggressive. He was in foul trouble, so he didn't get to play a lot early. He had 2 early fouls in the first quarter, got taken out. But he's got. I know, and one of the commentators said it, and I don't remember if it was Richard Jefferson or Tim Legler, but he's someone that plays within the flow of the game, but he's got to find a way to get more shots up, get more involved, something like that. I think that's really right. That's right, because to me, he's their second most important player besides Brunson with his clutch shot making, and even throughout the game, he can get those mid-range shots off where he's leaning and it's hard to block, and he shoots over his head and he hits those really well. And I think he's got to look for his shot more. He's got to be more involved in the game. He's a great defender. I know he missed 1-3 at the end that he usually makes. He usually makes his clutch shots, but Bridges has to be more of a factor. Jalen Brunson. I said Wemby is the best player in the league earlier through this playoff run. I think during the Spurs Thunder series, I think. But honestly, I'm going to make a take, and I could go back on it in a week. But right now, I think Jalen Brunson is the best player in the NBA. And he doesn't get to the basket better than a lot of people. And in a sense, he doesn't get his shot off better than a lot of people because there's a lot of times where he gets bottled up and he has to pass out of it. He doesn't move like a lot of people. But in another sense, he does get, when he has to get his shot off, he gets his shot off. And, he has a high shot with his elbow out in front of him, and it's hard to block. And he just hits the clutch shots. And that's the main reason why I think he's the best player in the NBA, because his impact on winning. Because if you got a good team, they're going to be around. It's going to be close towards the end of the game. And when you got someone that's making clutch shots like that, that's so difficult to go up against because there's just so much pressure on the other team to keep hitting shots. Like, to me, there was a lot of pressure, even though the Spurs won the game. Anunoby and Brunson were hitting shots down the stretch, and it just put so much pressure on the Spurs. Like, man, this thing isn't over yet. It's not over yet. We just got up by 4. We just got up by 5. They just hit another shot. And Brunson him and Bridges have won a lot of games like that. And I think his shot making and his clutch ability just make him the best player in the league. And I might go back on that soon because I didn't really think that until tonight, but I just think I've way underrated him. Jordan Clarkson played amazing. Attacked the basket well, shot the ball well, hit a 3. I think at the end of the shot clock. It was amazing. Attacked the basket when Wemby was out. He dribbles better than I thought he did. I thought maybe he lost his dribbling ability as he got older and became more of a shooter. And I think he has to some extent, but he still can handle the ball pretty well, get to the basket. He's athletic, I think, and taller, 6'5", and he does a good job of getting his body square and shooting high in the air off his feet. He jumps high on his jump shots, gets good looks off. Has a high shot, if not above his head, close to it. And he's a really good player. He's a scorer. Shooter, scorer. He's a good player, and he helped a lot tonight. And I think they said one of the first 2 games he didn't get any minutes. I think he definitely should get minutes. Game 4 and throughout this series, honestly. I know Shamet struggled a little more this game, but Shamet's been playing good lately. I don't know if you put Clarkson over Shamet, but yeah. And that's about it. That's all I really wanted to talk about. Thank you for anybody that listened, and I might do a podcast tonight. Kind of planning on it, but I'm not sure. Trying to get more podcasts out, and thank you for anybody that listened. Have a good one.